Yo guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the deadly assassin and got Harem in Justice League, Part 1. Huge shout out to the Phantom Penance for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto stared at him, and he stared back at Naruto. They stood right in front of each other, both garbed in all black and armed with a gleaming sword. Naruto did not know the man's name, but the man knew Naruto about as much as Naruto knew himself, or at least what he could remember. "Begin!" a voice commanded. The man yelled as he slashed his sword downward, but it was child's play for the blonde to merely block the attack. The fight quickly turned into a whirlwind of hacks and slashes, but only one of the men was really trying. Naruto caught his break when his attacker tried to stab him. He sidestepped and jabbed his elbow into the man's arm. The opponent's sword clattered to the ground as a result. He yelled and kicked Naruto in the stomach. It didn't faze the blonde, rather he was surprised that the man got a hit in. The ninja took that opportunity to take Naruto's sword and slam it on the ground. Naruto only grinned in anticipation as he placed up a defensive form. "I don't need a sword to beat you." The man jabbed at Naruto's forehead, followed by swift punch to the gut. If only they connected. Naruto dodged the jab and grabbed the punch to the gut. He twisted the man's arm to get him to cry out in pain before punching him in the face and gut. He followed by kicking the man's leg out, making his opponent fall on the ground before Naruto, and at his mercy. "Finish him!" commanded the voice of the male who started the match. Naruto looked at the shadow of a man who stood on a balcony overlooking the whole display. "Master, he is a shadow whose loyalty is yours alone," Naruto defended. The man below him stared at the blonde in disbelief and anger. "He challenged your place amongst the League of Shadows. Dissuade any and all doubts of you being an outsider," the man replied. "Then if it pleases you, I would like to purchase this man's life with my self-worth to the League." Naruto negotiated. The man merely gave a sigh before ending the fight with a wave. Naruto immediately released the man, not bothering to watch him collapse to the ground and fiercely clutch his hand as two figures walked to the blonde. "Mercy does not suit a proper assassin. You must remember that we live in a merciless world." "Doesn't mean we have to be wholly merciless in kind, Master Raz al Ghul," Naruto wisely replied, then he grinned. "Besides, even my mercy has its limits." He suspected that his opponent would be a sore loser and attempt to attack once his back was turned. That's why he packed one shuriken. He spun around quickly to see the man rushing him with a blade, then threw the projectile straight into his neck. The man gurgled and grabbed his neck hastily as blood began to splurt out. The Shadow's ninja fell to the ground in a slow death. Raz wasn't surprised at the man's deception. He had taught his fair share of disappointments in his long life. "The rules state that there was to be no weapons," he reminded. Naruto gave an innocent stare at the demon's head. "We obey rules." Raz stared, and stared, and stared, then smiled. "Very good, Naruto. For a moment, I was beginning to think that Talia would have to wait for another suitor." Taking that as her cue, a beautiful dark brown-haired woman left her father's side to lean on Naruto's shoulder in a possessive manner. "Yeah, I guess that would kind of suck," he agreed. Raz pointed at a doorway. "I'm certain I don't have to remind you, but Sensei would like to address you after this." Naruto nodded and walked to the door. When he opened it, to his shock, he saw a familiar face of a woman with black hair and dark eyes. Said eyes were filled with tears of betrayal. "Paula!" he gasped before hearing a gunshot. She shot him in the chest. He stared at the blood on his chest as his vision dimmed. Naruto awoke from that with a gasp. He was safe, and thankfully not shot. That was all a dream. "Naruto, are you all right?" He glanced at his right to see Paula waking up beside him. She didn't appear sad or particularly murderous. Probably just tired and concerned for her husband. "Yeah, just bad dreams," he muttered back, not really wanting to delve into specifics. Talia and the League was behind him now. This was his life now. "If you say so," Paula replied as she rose from the bed to stretch. "I should wake the girls up, they'll be late for school." Naruto nodded as he stared at the gold ring on his middle finger. It still felt surreal to him to be married, and with two girls as kids as well. Their door opened, then a gunshot followed by Paula screaming. Naruto shot his head up to see his wife dead on the ground, and Talia standing before him with a smoking gun. "I can't believe I ever loved you," she muttered before pulling the trigger in his general direction. HH! Naruto raved himself to consciousness as thunder crashed in his window. He quickly glanced around to find himself in a dark apartment, alone in bed, and certainly without a ring on his finger. He started to calm down. A double nightmare. Did such a thing even existed? It didn't matter, the facts was that both Paula and Talia was in the past. He wasn't an assassin or a married man, the latter he could never be. His phone buzzed beside him, and there was only one person who would call at 2 o'clock in the morning. He answered it anyway. "Yes, Captain Sourpuff? Where are you?" demanded a voice that was halfway deep, a percentage of a growl, and the rest was poorly made to sound scratchy. "I don't know, Bats. Where on earth would I be at 2 in the morning after patrolling Gotham till 1:30? Naruto replied sarcastically. "There's a robbery at the General Bank. Scarecrow's got Killer Croc backing him up on this one," the Dark Knight reported over the phone. "Why don't you bring Dick with you?" the blonde asked in a whiny tone. "He deserves his rest. Today is the day, as I'm quite sure you know." "Could you believe that after a straight week of reminding me, I still forgot?" "Yes, I do. Get there. Now." With that, Batman promptly hung up on Naruto. He sighed and reached for his armor while complaining to himself. The man dressed himself in all black armor that was spray-painted bright orange on the sides of his rib area and between his legs, as well as the single sword on his back. Naruto tied on his fox-like mask to his face to complete the transformation from an ordinary man to the Shadow Fox, partner to Batman, defender of Gotham, and a chatterbox. Running across the rooftops of Gotham in the rain was a great wake-up for the hero, but it failed to keep his thoughts from reminiscing in the past. Reason he became a superhero, or vigilante, was to do the right thing and feel like he was doing the right thing. Fixing the world's problems with death wasn't always the right answer, and he found out the real hard way that the bad guys and or their families don't ever forget what he did to them. That's why he isolated himself in Gotham for a fresh start as the Shadow Fox, and it was purely coincidental that Paula also moved there at the same time. Really. Shadow Fox didn't even bother to wait as he fell through the roof window into the bank above some startled crooks. Thought just occurred, why does nearly every building in Gotham have those? He mentally wondered as the crooks yelled something out. Probably went along the lines of shooting him. Shadow Fox ducked behind a counter as the men wasted their bullets away against wood, completely oblivious to the fact that guns do need to reload when they run dry of ammo. Once the familiar click-click sound ensured, he popped out of the corner and threw shurikens at their hands. "You guys aren't really good at this, are you?" he questioned. Their response was to run up to him for melee. Poor things, looked like Naruto had to teach them the pecking order. He chopped the first goon in the neck and struck him twice in the chest before flipping him over his head. The second one threw his fist out at Naruto's head, but he leaned back and broke the man's arm. "My arm dash!" He barely had time to register it before Naruto headbutted him and roundhouse kicking the guy right behind him. "You got some stupid guard scare dash!" Naruto faced the Scare King and nearly had a hear attack. Standing in front of him was the silent Batman who held onto an unconscious villain. "You took your time," Batman stated in a simple manner. "Yeah. Well, I had a late night, Tebeo." "That's a lot of people," Shadow Fox muttered in a testy tone. He stared at the reporters that waited for the heroes at the footsteps of the Hall of Justice, the reporters and the people behind them. It made him worry if any of them were concealing a weapon, licensed or not, and that unnerved him. "You could have waited in the hall," Batman replied. He knew how his partner wasn't very accustomed to large crowds. It was one of the factors that made his PTSD start kicking up. So far, the Fox-themed hero was strong enough on his own to stop the impulses that raged for him to make a public spectacle, but that would change real soon if he stayed out in the open for a long while. "Pfft, no way I would have waited. Today's Squirt's Day and I wouldn't miss it, not after the whole week of reminding me," he replied after ruffling up Robin's hair. The said boy wonder took offense to both the ruffle and the nickname. "I'm not a squirt. I've taken down most of Gotham's worst. I think that entitles me to a new nickname." "Really? 'Cause you're kinda small for your age, And that's a dent in your man card in my books," he teased while pulling at Robin's cheek. "I would love to break your hand if the moves I know weren't taught by you." "To me, it sounds like you're scared," the blonde cooed. "It would seem we are late," King Arthur, or Aquaman, declared behind the three. Naruto's fellow blonde had also brought along his protégé, an African, well, he guessed African Atlantean male, with a lighter blonde color for hair that was cut short. The boy wore a sleeveless armor that was red with black pants and no shoes. He also had 2 handles on his back. "Well, you're here before Flash, that's not bad." The two clasped hands before Shadow Fox addressed the Atlantean teenager. "I'm to assume you are Aqualad." The sidekick nodded in a respectful manner. "I am." "You must be Shadow Fox, Batman's assistant in Gotham. My king has spoke of you. He tells me when the Batman was reluctant to join the Justice League, you convinced him. Be glad I did, otherwise it would have been unorganized, inefficient, and seriously in debt." Naruto laughed. He glanced behind Aqualad to see Green Arrow along with his short fuse of a sidekick. "I told you we were going to be late." Well, he hadn't have shown up for 5 seconds, and he was already having an attitude. "Relax, Flash isn't here yet, I'd say we're still pretty early," Green Arrow assured his red-headed partner. "Well, if it ain't Jolly St. Ollie, now the party's shown up." Queen flinched at Fox. "It's nice of you say that, but I feel that it's unfair of you to know my secret identity but not know yours." "That's because we may both be smart, Alex, but only one of us is actually smart," Naruto replied in an honest tone. "I mean, I still haven't forgotten the time when you actually placed your company's logo on your arrows." "Wait a second, you did that? Seriously?" Speedy stared in an incredulous manner at his mentor, as if he never knew the man was capable of that level of ignorance, arrogance, and/or stupidity. "I was new in the gig, okay," the Emerald Archer hastily defended himself. "Unlike you, Speedy, I didn't have somebody who scolded me for forgetting to cross the T's and dot the I's." Naruto snickered. "That's kind of ironic to hear that from you since your superhero gig is emphasized on precision." "Gentlemen, can we be serious for a moment?" "Ugh, leave it to the bat to ruin all the fun. It's still a wonder how he makes even questions sound like statements." Heroes and sidekicks turned to face the Hall of Justice in all its splendor glory with its title etched into stone at the entrance, its luscious fountains that shot out the purest of blue water, and yes, it was quite boring. "Today's the day," Batman congratulated. "Welcome to the Hall of Justice, headquarters of the Justice League." Both Green Arrow and Aquaman finished. Naruto widened his eyes. He had completely forgotten that they were still running with that belief. He personally thought that they would have been told the day before. Perhaps they would be told inside and behind soundproof windows. "I knew we'd be the last ones here." "Oh, looks like Barry couldn't stall his sidekick after all. Sounds like one Scarlet Speedster owes him money." Reporters and the public took photos of the heroes entering the hall. The sidekicks talked eagerly amongst themselves while Shadow Fox and Flash held a silent discussion. They entered the main room of the hall where they were all treated to the golden statues of America's golden heroes. Why Shadow Fox's own statue wasn't up there was actually a personal request for Naruto himself. The world saw him as a hero. He'd start believing them once he believed he was a hero. The tour was brief because they had probably seen the hall before, so they went straight to the unauthorized zone where Martian Manhunter and Red Tornado awaited them. "With Red and John here with bats, guess we can assemble the stiff trio." Naruto privately thought. Well, he thought it was private. John claims he doesn't invade the privacy of minds, but the blonde had a theory that Martians were more sarcastic than honest. Why does it feel like John is staring at him? "Robin, Speedy, Aqualad, Kid Flash, welcome," John greeted in his usual manner, short sentences composed with awkward staring. The group departed into the authorized personnel zone as Martian Manhunter continued the tour. "You now have unlimited access to our gym, fully stocked gallery, and of course, our library." A door automatically slid open to reveal a room filled with books as well as lounging chairs for comfort. "In short, this is your home away from home," Shadow Fox explained. Flash sipped to his side before he spoke. "Make yourselves at home, TCH, piggybacking off of me, you leech?" the fox muttered. "Don't be mad that I don't owe you any money," Flash replied. Aqualad, Robin, and Kid Flash didn't need to be told twice as they found some comfortable positions in their chairs, but Speedy stood and scowled for some strange reason. He was clearly dissatisfied with something. "When do you think we should tell them the truth?" Shadow Fox asked as he joined in the huddle of heroes. "This is a matter we should discuss with the rest," Batman replied lowly before speaking out loud. "We'll need a quick debrief to discuss the coincidences of 4 ice villains attacking on the same day. We shouldn't be long." With that, the heroes headed towards the gray door that held "Justice League Only" written in big letters. A computer came out of the ceiling, scanned the 7 of them, and repeating their official designation. "Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought," Shadow Fox muttered. "I do believe the worst is OV-. That's it." "Great." People ran in random directions as well as screamed pure murder at the magical spectacle that appeared over their heads. It looked like a solar eclipse, but it was actually far more sinister than that. Some people did not run at all, rather marched in a straight, robotic line, kind of like they were hypnotized. "This way, all of you! Get behind me, regular people!" Shadow Fox yelled as he landed in the path of the marching citizens. "Fool, you cannot stop the destruction of the Earth!" They all spoke in a monotone voice simultaneously. Shadow Fox's reply came in a groan. "Seriously, Eclipso? You've been around since the League's founding, and you're still doing the same thing, trying to destroy the Earth. You shook things up a little by taking control of Votan, but you're still so unoriginal. You cannot stop me, you cannot escape, you can only die." They replied and moved forward. Feeling outnumbered, Naruto made a cross with his 2 fingers. "Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu!" In response, thousands of Shadow Foxes puffed into existence and struck a defensive pose. They knew the orders: incapacitate the enemy but don't kill. They were innocent. "I keep forgetting that we have our own personal crowd control on board." Naruto turned to see the only heroine on the League who dared to include fishnets as a part of her costume, since she had a pretty powerful singing voice to go along with it. "Black Canary. Quick question, are you and GA still going out? Why are you asking?" Canary replied suspiciously. It wasn't the type of things to bring up during a battle, of course. "Because he wouldn't tell me. Did you ever think he had a reason? Arg. We are not doing 20 questions today." Naruto rage quit, causing Dynalance to laugh. "By the way, how did it go today? Sai, if you know Speedy well, you can guess that he didn't take being lied to very well." Flashback time, yeah. "Roy, you just need to be patient." Green Arrow stepped towards the fuming Speedy. Naruto watched as the boy let his own anger get the better of him. "What I need is respect." He turned to face his fellow sidekicks. "They're treating us like kids. Or worse, sidekicks. We deserve better than this." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the declaration, so he wanted to play it that way. "Naruto!" Batman caught the blonde's arm as he stepped forward, but he shot him a single glare. It was a rare glare from the normally wisecracking hero, a powerful glare that held somewhat the same merit of Batman's glare. He normally used it when during Dick's training in the Batcave, particularly on the days when the boy wasn't being cooperative. It said, "Let me go, I need to teach somebody a lesson." And the detective did. "So you want respect? You want to be a hero, with all the privileges?" he questioned. Robin widened his eyes as he saw Naruto's face, words the boy wondered did not have to tell his friend how much in trouble he was. "Okay then, we'll play it by your rules." Shadow Fox's statement confused the Scarlet Archer, but all was to be clear once Shadow Fox backed away from Speedy. "If you can get me on my knees, then you'll be a full-time leaguer." Everyone stared in shock at Naruto's statement. "Just like that? If I beat you, I'll be given some actual respect?" Speedy questioned. "I can only promise that you'll be a full-time League member. The respect part is your problem." "I hate to interrupt, but there are people watching. Then make sure they don't interfere. Red." Naruto snapped. Red Tornado's limited knowledge on human emotions deduced for him that the fox-themed defender of Gotham was not overly fond of being interrupted. Speedy began to pull out his bow before he was stopped by Shadow Fox. "You can't use that." "Why not?" Speedy demanded. "That bow and quiver full of arrows were purchased by Oliver. Real heroes bought their own crime-fighting gear, Even the clothes on your back isn't even yours, but it'd be embarrassing to fight naked. Naruto replied matter-of-factly. Green Arrow flinched. Speedy's personal pride was a main pillar for the boy. An attack like that was sure to set him off. Speedy growled as he ran to the fox, but Naruto grabbed the boy by the arm and threw him over his shoulder. The boy landed unceremoniously to the ground. That's a basic maneuver, one where you'd be dead if I had a firearm of any kind. Killed by your own anger. No hero I know would be killed so easily. Naruto taunted. Speedy growled as he got back on his feet and got into a defensive pose. There were minuscule weak points in his defense, showing that he was taking the fight seriously. It was quick, but Speedy clearly felt a fist strike his face. Was that too fast? Do you need me to slow down for you? Naruto cooed. Quit treating me like a child. Speedy roared as he struck to the left and the right. Naruto smoothly dodged, then grabbed Speedy's leg after he tried to kick him in the chest. Your style is a loose reflection of Black Canary. Did you even bother to learn some martial arts of your own? Were you that certain of yourself, or that arrogant? Now that's taking things too far. Green Arrow decided to butt in, but Naruto had made his point, so he let the boy go. You demand respect? You disrespect your partner, the man who practically made you a man, by complaining like a child. You disrespect your mentor's training by not bothering to follow her footsteps and try to find some fighting styles of your own. Did you ever think that if you had faced someone like me in the field and died, that your death would be on their conscience? That they'd believe you died because they failed? Naruto questioned. The amusement left his voice real quick. You, Roy, have given no respect, and you think that you're automatically entitled to the same amount given to you? I loathe people who were given so much but are too consumed by what they don't have to even see it. That is not good hero material, not even a good man material. Flashback end. Of course, he left like a crybaby, but not before telling the others about the watchtower. Ollie's raised a real brat for sure. Naruto concluded. It sounds like you were treating him too hard. That's what Ollie said to me, but I told him I treat Robin even harsher. And he's the kid who's not even old enough to drink his pain away. Both Black Canary and Shadow Fox were lounging on the neat grass as the army of Narutos kept the hypnotized citizens back. Naruto was so used to getting crowd control due to his cloning ability that he lounged around and allowed all his clones to do all the heavy work. This certainly annoyed more than a few leaguers, but it hasn't raised any arguments. Wonder Woman fell out of the sky and made a small crater right next to the two. She got on her feet and noticed them just sitting. What are you two doing? We could use some help. I am helping Princess crowd control. Naruto pointed at his own army. I can't fly, was Black Canary's response. Batman can't fly and he's helping us. He's Batman, D. He could redecorate the entire watchtower into a bat theme and everyone is either powerless to stop him, or too afraid. Naruto replied. Wonder Woman stared for a bit, then launched herself back into the sky. As a warrior princess, she knew when to concede. So where was I? Oh yeah, the other sidekicks got all mad that we kept the watchtower from them. I knew that was a bad idea from the beginning. How are they? She asked. He merely gave a shrug. If I was in their shoes, I'd probably be punching something to help relieve my stress. Meanwhile, Robin, hack the door. It's not working. Then punch it or something. Get out of my way. Move. Angry Kryptonian clone. Those things are coming up the stairs. Calm down, Kid Flash. This was a terrible idea. But that's just me. I've no idea what they'd be doing now. There was an explosion above the two. They stared upward to see the League gather around Superman, who held an unconscious Voton. The amulet's been destroyed and the Eclipso shards have been gathered together. I'd say that the crisis is now over. Superman declared. The League remained silent. There would be no celebration since another apocalyptic crisis could happen the next day or even that night. Hey Bats, you alright? Flash asked the Batman. He was placing his focus on a hologram on his wrist. Nothing about the matter at hand, but the main computer at the hall has pulled up all information on Cadmus while we were gone. Well, you did talk about it being on fire. Maybe you left it up and the janitors turned it on by accident. Flash deduced. He was very optimistic for a police detective. It would require my password to the Batcave to operate, and the only people to know that is me and Dash. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Both him and Shadow Fox suspected the horrible truth. Everyone, to Cadmus immediately. The sidekicks may be in trouble. Those who could took to the skies and those who couldn't were carried by both Green Lanterns amongst others. Not you. Batman stopped Naruto, who was about to jump onto a construct pad. Why not? You have cleanup duty. Nanny! Don't think for a moment that because I was preoccupied I wasn't watching you sit around and let your clones do all the work. Nothing else needed to be said. Batman joined the rest of League, leaving Naruto in the dirt to curse in fluent Japanese. Why? Because he's the Batman. The next morning, I've decided to start a team for our sidekicks. After a brief recount of what happened at Cadmus for those who couldn't make and or were busy with cleaning up the rubble and answering questions by the reporters, Batman declared his plan at the meeting room in the watchtower. A scowling Shadow Fox was present as well. Intriguing. What does this team of yours do? Red Tornado naturally went to the root of the problem. We all know that crime happens in front of our faces and we cannot act upon it due to the fact that it could raise a political problem, or that our presence would scare them away only to return another day. Batman spoke to the Justice League. In short, the fear of causing an international incident, say a war, has stopped us from pursuing the root of crime. So you want children to break international laws like some sort of covert team? Wonder Woman questioned. She and Batman may have been or could be an old flame, but there was no question that she didn't agree with a lot of his ethics. Mostly dealing with reconnaissance and sample collecting, but in a tight nutshell, yes. Batman agreed. Batman, suggestions like that is what make people like Amanda Waller and Glorious Godfrey. Your willingness to bend the law, even break it sometimes, is what places the Justice League in the highest of scrutiny. Princess, you saw what I saw in Cadmus. A government-approved facility was making illegal components and shipping them to persons or persons unknown. The villains are getting smarter, playing the law against itself. It won't be long until they start coordinating their efforts. What, people like the Joker working with Lex Luthor? As if. Captain Marvel brushed aside in a very childlike manner. It's been done before, Batman replied darkly. I agree with Batman. All heads turned incredulously to face Superman. The Man of Steel disagrees with Batman about as much as Wonder Woman disagreed with Batman. We're too flashy to find the bad guys in their lair. Batman's covert team suggestion gives us a chance to find where they're hiding and put them behind bars for good. Being an ex-ninja and Batman's partner, Naruto knew exactly why Superman was siding with the detective. It was all about his clone, the nerve of somebody to take the invincible Superman's DNA to clone a weapon against him. It was doomsday all over again. If this is being considered, then I would like to request that my niece be a part of this team. John spoke as an image of a smiling girl with red hair and freckles appeared in the center for all to see. I don't know, John, you sure she's ready for Earth? Hawkgirl questioned. This will be good for her, I assure you, he promised. There's still the factor of where they would be, who would watch over them, Diana persisted. I've made all the necessary arrangements. Mount Justice is abandoned and no villains have recently attacked it, and by recently I mean years. Batman replied instantly. And I have volunteered to act as their custodian of sorts. Red Tornado added. Wonder Woman narrowed her eyes at the detective. Can't help but stay ahead of everyone, can you? Batman stared blankly, but the hidden smirk was oh so obvious. They'll need a trainer. Someone to teach them how to fight and how to act in the covert missions to come. Black Canary reminded. Batman nodded. I understand that you'll want to volunteer, however you'll be busy for a while for other work. Any volunteers? Maybe it was the prospect of teaching, or the urge to not be bored anymore. It didn't matter much. What mattered was when all the other hands laid on the table, Naruto's hand went in the air. I'll do it, he declared. There wasn't a major shock, only Batman raised an eyebrow. Then it settled. With Red Tornado and Shadow Fox acting as the custodians, let's begin voting for this new team to be ratified. Helicopter hovered high above a compound. Kitson leaned his head out of the aircraft to see the home of his target. The only indicator there was the bright lights of the house in the night. He glanced at his watch that told him it was 10:05. His target had failed to deliver the package to the shadows at the designated time. Now he had to die. The pilot gave the clear sign to the fox assassin, who nodded and leapt out of the copter. He fell downward as the helicopter sped away. Kitsune found free-falling to be a suitable stress reliever for any anxiety he might have left over, but as the saying says, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and the ground was getting eerily closer. He pulled the chute and landed in some dense bushes just outside the house. It would be safer if he observed his target and strategized before execution. Thermal imaging showed about a dozen guards, including one that was operating the security systems, 2 women very close to the target himself. The way he paced back and forth made Kitsune assume he was talking on the phone, probably trying to find a way to bribe the shadows or escape. That would only make Kitsune grip his binoculars in anger. The fool thinks he can trick the League and escape? No more planning was needed. He snuck over the defenses and stuck to the camera's blind spot. Step 1. Neutralize the escape route. He made his way to the garage. The man had a collection of cars, some old, and some that were made the day before. None were spared of Kitsune's explosive remote charges. Step 2. Control all the power in the house. While the security remained a problem, Kitsune did take advantage of the near-defenseless generators that powered the entire complex that also just so happened to be outside. That was amateur of them. Step 3. Silence the secure dash. You don't move! Kitsune froze at the order of guard who somehow snuck behind him. He'll berate himself about that after he gets back from the mission. Stand up, nice and slowly. Kitsune obeyed while keeping his hands up in the air to show himself unarmed. He faced forward and waited for something to happen. Control, I've got some type of ninja man doing something outside dash. Kitsune spun quickly to slap the gun in one direction and shoving the guard's wrist in another, making the man drop the gun into Kitsune's hands. The guard barely blinked as Kitsune relinquished a bullet in his brains. Stealth became obsolete after that loud bang. New step 3, make things go boom. Naruto woke himself up. The loud noises of people, the clattering of glass plates, and the sizzling of greasy American food told him that he was not at his home anymore, one of his favorite cafes in fact, but it wasn't because of the food. He stared outside the window. It was her bus stop, and she stood right there each day for school. He could not see her face, but he knew it was her from her long blonde hair that was tied in a ponytail, but it was still ragged in some areas. What are you staring at? Naruto turned to see billionaire Bruce Wayne standing in a full black suit with his dark gray hair neatly combed back. Naruto didn't even bother answering the man. How much is this suit today? He questioned while staring down at his black coffee. $580, the billionaire replied. Hey, I got a $50 that looks just like that at home. You must have been cheated. But I guess that really doesn't matter much to you. You've got other problems. I'm concerned about you, Bruce confessed as he sat across the blonde who was paying more attention to the girl leaving on her school bus. You want to help with the team, yet you clearly have problems of your own to deal with. Mainly your explosive past. No, Naruto Uzumaki has those problems. Shadow Fox can multitask, Naruto reminded his friend. However, Naruto Uzumaki is in control of Shadow Fox's actions. You can only go so far with that excuse, Wayne reminded. You need to pull yourself out of this hole you're in before it affects your judgment in the field. Naruto recognized the implications of Wayne's advice in a heartbeat. He was surprised the billionaire would get that personal. Are you suggesting that I talk to Paula? Do you have the guts to say that in my face? Listen, Naruto, it doesn't have to be for at least 20 minutes dash. No, you don't understand. The restaurant got quiet as its occupants stared strangely at the two men. Naruto sighed. Sorry, everybody. Enjoy your meal. He leaned into the table they shared once the cafe resumed their daily business. This isn't like the ordinary bad guys who find out my secret identity and try to aim for my loved ones as revenge. Nobody knows Shadow Fox's secret identity. It's somebody who knows Naruto Uzumaki. Someone knew who I was, where I would be, who I would be with, and that I would be defenseless. That's why I can't see her or the League of Shadows. I can't see anyone until I find this person. Bruce sighed at his friend's logic. Naruto, I'm convinced now more than ever that you may be overestimating the capabilities of this phantom opponent. It's been years since that incident. For all we know, he could have died, and the only way he haunts you is in your dreams. Wayne theorized. Naruto gave a bitter laugh. Doesn't sound like you to be an optimist. Wayne nodded. You're right, I don't usually focus on the best case scenarios, but this thing is turning inside out with paranoia, running you rigid. You need to stop festering on it or it'll destroy you. You know, you should really take your own advice. Your parents have been dead for years. Bruce narrowed his eyes and stared at Naruto exactly like the bat he disguised himself to be, but the blonde shrugged it off and stood. You don't have to speak, I know it was a low blow. Bottom line is that I don't question your convictions, so don't you question mine. With that, Naruto left with his hands in his pockets. If it was any consolation, he knew he left Bruce with the bill, but as he stated before, billionaires probably don't worry about that sort of things. Accessing Shadow Fox A02B. Yeah, he and Bats share a designation. Shadow Fox closed his eyes at the blinding yellow flash of light from the Zeta tube and opened them to the interior of Mount Justice in Happy Harbor. His clones had done well cleaning the base up of the cobwebs and connecting the power and water back to the mountain. It looked as clean as the day it was made. Shadow Fox! He turned to see Gan Moores, otherwise known as Miss Martian, flying in his direction. Despite her green skin, the Martian had integrated herself quite well to the Earth culture and fashion. When she wore a red open-buttoned shirt with a white shirt underneath as well as a red skirt, she looked like a genuine Earthling. Minus the green skin, of course. Miss Mgan, you appear quite cheerful today, he commented when she got to him. Yes, it's because you got a mission for us, right? You darn right he does. Naruto glanced to see the other 4 members of the new team right behind the Martian. All were wearing their civilian clothes. He also noticed that Super Bowl was the last to address him. The boy seemed to have a permanent frown on his face. You asked Red Tornado already? Didn't he tell you that handing out missions was more of Batman's thing? Shadow Fox questioned. Yes, he did, but we were hoping you would have something for us to handle. Aqualad had replied for the whole team. Besides, I'm gonna go mad with boredom if we don't get a mission pretty soon. Kid Flash added none too helpfully. Well, as you know, this team's primary goal was to handle missions that the League cannot publicly address. Such missions like these aren't going to happen every day, and certainly not in the daytime. Then Speedy was right. This idea was just something to keep us happy. Robin exclaimed angrily. Shadow Fox stared at the protege of his longtime partner. I shouldn't listen to a word Speedy says about this team since he isn't on it. These covert missions aren't something we made to give you something to do on your downtime. These are real events that could mean life or death to one or millions. Whatever Speedy has said about this team is wrong. This team is necessary to the League. You are necessary to the League. Naruto couldn't tell if they were satisfied with his declaration or not. They all glanced to the sides or folded their arms. Gan just gave a timid smile. It was safe to assume that she was alright if they had a mission or didn't have a mission. Sigh, aren't they impatient, he thought to himself irritably, then got an evil smirk. Guess the only way to calm them down is to run them rigid, Naruto Uzumaki style. Seeing the shocked look on Gan's face told him that she intercepted his thought. He didn't really mind it, but he'd have to make himself a mental footnote to remind her to keep her telepathic abilities on a minimum. If there is any consolidation, I'm glad you haven't gotten a mission yet, because your training starts now, he declared. Training? Superboy demanded. He finally grew somewhat interested in the discussion. Naruto nodded at the team. As your custodian, did you honestly expect I would let you go on covert missions that involve stealth, with little to no experience on those types of situations? Shadow Fox questioned. No, today, we are going to do a little exercise. This exercise will determine if I deem you mission ready or need to be held back until you are ready, Shadow Fox declared with a grin. What is the purpose of this exercise then? Aqualad asked in his polite manner. It's quite simple, all you have to do is dash. All the power immediately was cut off in Mount Justice. Gan gave a short scream in surprise. Naruto's voice came on the intercoms for all in the cave to hear. Find me. Robin's small portable light illuminated the darkness. The team was all huddled together. Robin, Can you explain why all the lights turned out? Aqualad somewhat commanded as the boy wonder tapped on his portable holograms. I don't know, seems like Shadow Fox had remote control over the entire mountain. Dude, you work with him in Gotham, how bad could he be? Kid Flash asked with a little bit of worry. He wore his goggles to get a thermal imaging of the hero, but he found nothing at all. Robin shivered as unpleasant thoughts arose. Think of Batman, only he takes pleasure of what he does. Then we'll tear this place apart piece by piece till we find him. Superboy growled while popping his knuckles. We can't do that, we live here. Gan protested quickly. Aqualad nodded as he mentally observed the problem before them. Then our only option is to seek Shadow Fox out the old-fashioned way. Splitting up would cover more ground, but staying together would also increase our chances of success. I can find him faster! Kid Flash sped off in the building before anyone could protest, and he quickly became not the only who preferred staying alone. I can handle myself! Superboy bounded off into the darkness with nothing but his heightened sense of hearing to guide him. I could try to hack the systems, get the power back on. Robin suggested to the other two. Aqualad nodded before facing Miss Martian. Perhaps it is best if you keep a mental lookout for Shadow Fox, should he come near. Yeah, I could do that. She hastily agreed. He may be like Batman, but he isn't as fast as me. Can't be too hard to find him, were the thoughts of Kid Flash as he sped through Mount Justice. There weren't many rooms to the mountain, a living room, kitchen, sparring room, some personal bedrooms, the hangar, that space below the mountain, maybe a power generator room. He stopped running in super speed to get some better viewing in thermal, but little did he know that his target was far closer than he expected. Hey! What the dash? Someone grabbed his head and pulled him to the ceiling. Kid Flash stared at an upside-down grinning Shadow Fox. Maybe he was frowning then. You assume that I'm a regular human, that I need the ground to stand on. First mistake was making assumptions. Though he was Shadow Fox's hands, Kid Flash nevertheless grinned in an irritating manner. Your first mistake was putting your hands on me. He began to violently vibrate his body at an incredible rate, not enough to phase through solid objects, because that would be embarrassing when he pulls it off, but to get the molecules in his body really hot. Shadow Fox hissed at the intense heat and dropped the junior speedster. Kid Flash wasted no time to dash on the walls and eventually the ceiling to land a blow on Shadow Fox, but said hero fell to the ground. The yellow and red speedster ran circles around Fox Hero. Just give it up, SF! No way you can catch me! Shadow Fox didn't react. Rather, he held on to something very thin, and sometimes it shone in the darkness. This same thing Fox pulled out and pulled tight. Kid Flash realized what was happening after he barely caught notice that more of it was in his running area. Oh crap dash. Kid Flash tripped on the wire and fell unceremoniously against the cold hard rock wall of Mount Justice. Ordinary people would have had a majority of his bones crush at that intensity of a strike, but Kid Flash only moaned for his aching muscles and broken pride. You had abandoned your other teammates, particularly the one who knows the most about me, to face an opponent you had no idea where he was, or what he was capable of doing to you or others. If I had been someone like Deathstroke or Lex Luthor, villains who don't monologue for more than a minute at the least, you would have been dead. Shadow Fox instructed as he wrapped up his wire. Better luck next time. Now, it's time to deal with one jolly green giant, minus the jolly and green part of the mix. Superboy searched the mountain with a bit of recklessness, and for a reason. He was a walking tank of mass destruction, a Kryptonian, and Shadow Fox was just a mere man. He was quite confident that whatever the man could dish out he could take and give even more. Just then, something slid between his legs. He glanced down to see two hands grabbing the back of his knees and pulling hard. Superboy yelled out as he fell to the ground in front of Shadow Fox. Your Kryptonian half makes you really durable and strong, but even you can be toppled with the right leverage. The superhero. Why did you leave your teammates? He asked while Superboy angrily got himself back on his feet. I don't need them. The clone replied rather fiercely. I can handle you on my own. He started throwing mad swings at Shadow Fox. Granted, they were laden with more power than a locomotive, but they were wild and random, showing how much Superboy knew what he was doing. I don't doubt that you can, given the right circumstances. But you rushed in without knowing what I can do, or if I am stronger than you. Basically, you overestimated your capabilities, and grossly underestimated mine." With that, the room they were in became illuminated by a green light, a small green light, a light that came from the palm of Shadow Fox's hand. Superbo backed away as a weird and very uncomfortable feeling washed over him. It became hard to move, stand, even take a breath. What is kryptonite? I assume this is your first time ever coming into contact with it," Shadow Fox replied. He flipped the kryptonite shard back and forth from his fingers as he talked. "I honestly don't know how the remnants of Krypton get to Earth from the vastness of space. Guess that's one of life's mysteries, eh? Consider it a gift that you're exposed to it now and not in the field, that'd suck for you and your team." With that, one solid punch to the head knocked Superboy down for the count. Naruto sighed. "They're not used to this sort of stuff, nevertheless, really disappointed with how this exam's going. Guess I'll have to wrap it up now." "Miss Martian?" "Still nothing," Gan answered Aqualad's unspoken request. The Atlantean felt more and more uncomfortable with the situation as Robin tried to regain control of Mount Justice's power. It had been more than 5 minutes now, and Shadow Fox had not engaged them yet. Surely he knew that they wouldn't have moved blindly in the dark. Then again, both Superboy and Kid Flash had charged with reckless abandon. "All right. I got it!" Robin cheered as a green checkmark appeared on his screens. "Then do not waste time. Give us control over the mountain again." Aqualad responded. He didn't need to repeat himself. As the lights flashed on, the three got an enlightening experience of how bad their situation is, or was. I'm guessing we lost," Robin assumed in a weak tone. "That's impossible!" Gan exclaimed. "I would have noticed this many people for certain." The three were completely surrounded by dozens upon dozens of Shadow Fox clones, all poised to strike at an instant. "My clones don't have private thoughts." The real Naruto made his way through the crowd flanked by 2 other clones carrying the one unconscious Kryptonian and a sulking speedster. "To say they think privately would be to say that they think like me, act exactly like how I should act, pose as me. They don't think like me, they are me," he instructed. "Their skills are my skills, their reactions are my reactions, their perception is my perception, and vice versa. When I dispel a shadow clone, I don't receive their memories because they aren't capable of making any. I take their experiences. My brain does the rest." "But that isn't the case here. The case is your performance." He began to pace back and forth in thought. "Honestly, you didn't do very good, but that's what I expected. You guys are new to this kind of thing, but that's going to change after a good week of my all-star training program." What star training program? Robin wimped. He just knew that if it was anything he went through during his training to become Robin. "You 5 will be trained in the arts of stealth, reconnaissance, and perhaps even espionage," Shadow Fox declared. "I'm not going to lie, bones will be broken, sweat will accumulate in a speed you all will have never thought possible, and when I'm done with you, by God, you will be aching in places you never thought could ache. It ain't because I hate you or that I enjoy this, who am I kidding? I'm really going to enjoy this, it's purely to prepare you for the possible worst-case scenario in the field." Shadow Fox grinned as he faced the team. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of right now, your training, I'll stick with torture, begins now." 2 weeks later. "How are the children behaving?" Red Tornado questioned as he exited the Zeta tube. Shadow Fox gave a savage grin. "Oh, they've by now learned the pecking order of things around here." Since he had no clue of the basis Batman would be assigning missions, Naruto decided to make the past couple of weeks be devoted to pure mental and physical training. If they weren't begging for a mission then, they sure were begging for one now, until they found out that begging for missions was only going to earn them more time with Naruto and his training regime. All jokes aside, I feel like they're ready enough to handle their first mission. It'd be a nice way to measure up their capability. And what of Miss Martian's telepathy? Have they taken advantage of that yet? The android questioned, causing Naruto to flinch just a bit. Yeah, that's still a sore subject. The genomes in Cadmus had left a lasting impression on Superboy, making him and Gan barely on talking basis. It was pushing the button to get them to talk alone. You should begin working on that. The use of telepathic communication is invaluable to the team. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Naruto dismissed, but then he stared at the main computer in the cave. Hey, Tornado. How often does a lone tornado terrorize the dock's happy harbor? Never. Red Tornado replied as he stared at the phenomenon. There are no storms near here according to the weather forecast. This is an unusual occurrence. I could check it out, Shadow Fox suggested. I've got nothing to do. That was the moment Batman decided give Naruto a call. Or maybe not. Shadow Fox here. Are you doing anything important? Bruce Wayne questioned. Something had just come up in Happy Harbor. I will assign the team on it. Take Batman's case. Red Tornado cut in from the side. Naruto glared at the crimson android. Does everybody want to cut me off? Well, I'm surprisingly free now. What's up? There's a case in Gotham. I need you to handle it. Is it because you're in a meeting, or that Batman shouldn't be out in daylight much? Naruto questioned. Both. Deal with it. People were so pushy these days. Alright, Jimmy, I'm here. What's up? Commissioner Jim Gordon turned to spot Shadow Fox passing through the GYPD into the crime scene. What, Batman didn't want to come? He questioned. Yeah, says he can't show up during the daytime. Gordon sighed. We could have used him now, because this is a strange one. They went down the diseased and filthy alley that was cut off with yellow police tape to the victim. It was a boy, teenager who hadn't been on the streets for a while, judging his clothes, but his eyes were bloodshot red, even blood came out of them. His veins appeared deep into the surface of his skin, and was purple. His body was also pale. He'd been dead for an hour or so. Not one of the worst things I've seen, but it's still pretty bad. Shadow Fox commented. Jim nodded. Well, what can you make of it? The commissioner probably could have ordered his scientific team to handle it, but their instruments were a tad bit outdated and the mafia in Gotham was never truly dead. It was best to let the professionals handle it. Naruto wasn't scared to poke and prod the body a bit, even go as far as to take blood samples of the boy, of both the blood in his body and on his eyes. Well, it's a chemical reaction to something for certain. His immune system is out of whack as well as his nerves and muscle tissue. It's showing signs of a drug withdrawal. A withdrawal? From what? Jim questioned. Shadow Fox could only shrug. Not your regular drugs for certain. This is some heavy stuff. Gonna have to ask the Bat on this. Jim took that as his cue. He cleared police back as to give the hero some space to make a call. Hey Bats, I got a dead kid who suffered a withdrawal. Can you tell me what? Send me the picture and the blood sample results. Batman commanded. Shadow Fox sent them via email and patiently waited for the world's greatest detective to go over the information. The direct attack on the boy's nerves, particularly in the muscles, as well as his veins reaching the surface, could only be one thing: venom. Bruce theorized. Venom? The stuff Bane sells? How could he have died from that? They sell venom everywhere in Gotham. Naruto replied. Evidently not anymore, which doesn't make sense. Gotham's one of Bane's top buyers. For him to stop selling venom, there would mean a major hit on his money input. Shadow Fox stood from the course and turned to leave the scene. Guess that means we got to find out where the stuff is going, and for what. Naruto had been taking regular visits to Arkham Asylum every week, and they still hadn't found a way to make faster visiting schedules. It wasn't as if all the city wanted to be even close to the infamous asylum whose reputation takes a dive after each breakout. He sat on a rugged chair in a bare, empty room that was about as filthy as the rest of the asylum, he would know, and checked his watch every 5 minutes. He'd been doing that 6 times now. The warden's voice droned on the television about the history of Arkham and how it was beneficial to the city. Now the blonde could sympathize a little bit to the loons for wanting to tear Warden Sharp limb from limb. The man sounded like a drone. Mr. Uzumaki, she's ready for you now. He glanced upward to see the receptionist assisted by a security guard. Not wishing to waste any more time, he stood up and followed the man deeper into the asylum that always has a leak somewhere, basing it off of Arkham Asylum game, dark and leaky. Sir, how long have you been here? Naruto asked to break the silence. It was his luck that the security guard felt talkative. Too long, pal. About a month or 2. That makes me a veteran in this loony bin. Figure I'd better quit before there's another breakout and I get caught in the middle of all these crazies. I hear ya. Being stuck in a place like this with these people sounds like a nightmare, alright. Naruto agreed. The security man glanced back at the blonde before speaking again. If I'm not getting too nosy, can you tell me why a guy like yourself is even here? There doesn't seem to be anybody here that's worth visiting in my opinion. Naruto's friendly mood dampened a bit at that statement. There's somebody here worth visiting, he muttered darkly. The security guard wasn't born yesterday. He knew when he overstayed his welcome. They didn't talk for the duration of the short escort. Naruto was led into an empty room with a table and 2 chairs. Reinforced glass sliced the room in half. Your friend will be in here shortly. Probably going through the proper procedure with the lab coats now, the security man informed him before closing the door. Naruto sat down in the chair and looked down at the phone before him. There naturally was another one at the other side of the glass. Before supervillains, Arkham policy was like any ordinary asylum where visitors could physically touch the patients. But that wasn't a good idea anymore with nuts like the Joker. Arkham had formed into a darker prison than Blackgate. The dulled sound of the door opening received Naruto's attention. 3 armed security guards and a female psychiatrist entered the room. The woman held onto a clipboard and the men trained their firearms on the prisoner, or the patient, since it was an asylum. They all wore gas masks to protect themselves, perhaps from the sleeping agent laced in the ventilation of the room, but it was more likely to protect themselves from the dangerous scent that the patient happened to be giving off. Who was this patient exactly? A woman with beauty of unequal. Every part of her body was perfection in the eyes of a regular man. Her skin, although unnaturally green, was completely devoid of any nasty marks or scars. Her body was perfectly formed in every aspect: her shoulders, arms, chest area in general and specific, her hips, her legs, even her hands and feet were in all manner perfect. Her hair was long and a violet color of red, like a small river of blood draping from her head to her lower back, becoming less fluid and more wrinkly on the way down. I'm basing her off of Arkham Asylum/City as well. They made her less attractive in both New 52 and Arkham Knight. She was perfection in the eyes of the beholder, but Naruto knew her before she was the beauty the world feared but craved in secret. Before she was graceful, Naruto knew her to be clumsy. Before she was deadly, he knew her to be kind and gentle. Before she was poison ivy, he knew her as Pamela, or Pam. She gave a brief glance at the restraints behind her before taking a seat as well and picking up the telephone on her end. Naruto did the same, opening up a line of communication. Naruto. Hey Pam. Long time, no see. He greeted in a positive attitude. God knows that she needs a little positivity. Pamela Isley smiled softly back at the blonde. It was a rare thing for her to smile and actually mean it. As Poison Ivy, she wouldn't have bothered with all this soft, mushy emotions, but the man before her had no interest in what she had become. He came to talk with Pam, and she was available. So how has therapy been coming along? He asked. The woman gave a scowl, hinting very loudly that there was a problem. I did what you suggested and tried to talk to them, but they don't listen. They keep interrupting me when I'm explaining them the importance of the decrease of plant life on a global level to go back to why I killed those people. The nerve of them. And they call themselves doctors. Do like we talked about, tell them you won't answer their question until you are finished with whatever you're talking about. Input is an important part of therapy, at least that's what the books say. Naruto replied over the phone. I've recently been doing some thinking, and I think that they don't want us to leave. Pamela confessed silently into the phone. Who, the patients? Their job is to rehabilitate the patients, Pam dash. No, their job is to do whatever Warden Sharp says, and Sharp is going to do whatever is necessary to keep us all in here. Pamela cut in. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Whatever Pamela was telling him, there was a good chance it wasn't all lies. She wouldn't lie to him. What do you mean? Pamela sighed, as if Naruto hadn't have seen the obvious. You know Sharp's aiming to be the mayor of Gotham, so getting public support is a key part to his campaign. As Warden of Arkham, Gotham doesn't expect him to do his job and rehabilitate all us psychos. They want him to keep us all locked in here, contained, so their dear children can sleep safe in their beds. Sharp's taking no chances with us, especially the supervillains. nobody's leaving Arkham while he's warden. Naruto nodded to her theory. It was something that needed to be discussed in details with Batman himself. I'll look into it. No, don't, Pamela pleaded quickly. I overheard some doctors. They're concerned with the number of visits you make and how you visit me specifically. They suspect I'm using you to get myself out. That's something I can easily fix. Don't worry so much, I'll keep visiting you. Naruto reassured before a bell rang. Their time was up. Listen, just keep trying to prove yourself as a normal citizen, and we can hang out in that old tea place, just like old times. He spoke quickly. She gave a smirk at the suggestion. Or maybe you'll man up and take me out on a date. Don't push your luck, Miss Isley. I hardly know you at all. He teased as they both hung up. Naruto left the room to find another female doctor waiting for him. She was a head shorter than him with a face of Asian heritage. Her hair was dark brown and short, easily tied into a bun. Mr. Uzumaki? My name is Dr. Penelope Young and I need to speak to you about your visits for a quick second. Is this about a notion of Pam controlling me to break her out of jail? Naruto guessed with his arms folded. Dr. Young nodded. You see, visits to Arkham patients with a reputation like that of Miss Isley is an oddity in itself. Combine that with her ability to release pheromones that can manipulate people, and you can see why we hold some concerns. Naruto nodded. I don't see why there's a problem. Don't your records show that I had been visiting her since the very day that Batman and Shadow Fox apprehended her? Young didn't need to find the files to answer that question. She remembered the day when the tall, dark and menacing Batman dragged in an Emerald Beauty, and she was there when the man before her showed up 2 hours afterwards. That was the day when she encountered her first real metahuman. Joker didn't count, though he was still the scariest up to date, right next to Zash. Yes, they do, but Warden Sharp has recently been conducting some checks and necessary upgrades to our security, so we have to assume every possibility. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the mere mention of the Warden. It seemed like Pam's theory on the man wasn't far from the truth if it wasn't the truth. What would need to be done in order to dissuade these notions? He questioned. Young gave a bright smile at the blonde's easy cooperation. Nothing too serious. Just an examination by me, though you'll have to come in the afternoon. I'm afraid that's the only time I'm free. You can come in any time in the afternoon, as long as it is this week. The sooner the process, the more in the clear zone you'll be. I'm not surprised. Politicians have always bent the rules in order to gain more publicity in the eyes of the population. The iconic Bat Vigilante spoke in his low voice while working on a computer in the watchtower. But that's not beneficial. What if one of the villains actually want to change? If everyone wants to keep them locked up, they'll be pushed to break out, making society believe them to be insane again. It's a stupid circle. Batman stopped what he was doing to face his partner. It is, but that is the way it has to be. The Justice League, and superheroes in general, does not have the power to make those type of decisions. That can only be done by the government. Our job is to make sure said government has the power to enforce its rules. Naruto turned his head to stare at the window that shone the darkness of space. It was irritating to be constantly reminded of the limitations that burdened a superhero on a day-to-day basis. Key example would be one agonizing Glorious G. Godfrey. If Naruto was still an assassin, he would have killed that man purely for giggles and a good night's rest. Coordinates set, Deep Space Imaging Online, Batman declared as he stared at the giant main screen. The Bat and the Fox stared as the watchtower imaging gave the two a live satellite image of a certain island. It's Santa Prisca, all right. Notice anything out of the ordinary? Shadow Fox asked his partner. Batman stared deeply as his high analytical mind picked at the scene before him. There is smoke rising from the factory, so it is still in function, but boats are in the docks. They're not importing or exporting. So there's a private buyer, someone who's buying up every last drop of the venom. Naruto guessed, but Batman shook his head. Bane would have made certain that at the most 10% of the venom kept going out into the streets, meaning he may not be calling out the shots anymore. So someone's taken over the factory from Bane and from the bottom of their heart, decided to do Bane's dirty work and is making venom for some private buyer. Naruto guessed. Or for themselves. Batman added. This does raise many questions, but we'll need some evidence, not more assumptions. A reconnaissance is necessary, Batman declared. Naruto turned and looked at the bat, doubting if his ears had heard correctly. I may be overstepping here, but are you suggesting that this'll be the team's first mission out of the States, out of the safety of American law? Batman spoke. Their mission against Mr. Twister, along with how little the public knew about it, tells me that they're ready for this. Well, I don't think they're ready, Naruto exclaimed. They don't even have a field leader yet. Who do you think is the leader? Batman questioned. Shadow Fox rubbed his head as he tried to think of which one of the 5 teenagers radiated with leadership. Well, Robin's good. No, he's too immature, not Kid Flash immature, but still immature. Superba and Miss Martian are no good either. Best choice is Aqualad, for sure. Batman nodded to Naruto's answer. Then the others will recognize him as leader and follow his command. However, if you're really not certain, give them another test. I believe they love those. Naruto gave a nasty smirk. This was gonna be the test of the ages. Alright, cupcakes, listen up! The goal of the game today is to observe in discretion, Naruto bellowed. Using Miss Martian's trusty bioship, he led the team to some deep forest area devoid of any civilization for miles around. The team looked fearful of the incoming trial and annoyed of the bug life that was attracted to them, mainly the mosquitoes. By now, the group of clones have joined in a massive group somewhere in this forest. Your job is to find out what they're doing, who's the leader of the group, and how you can tell without being caught. When you have discovered this, you will come back to this very spot and tell Kid Flash here, who will then proceed to tell me. Why did I have to be tied to a tree? The yellow speedster moaned. His chest area was tied to the base of a massive tree by thick rope. Because you failed to complete my last trial, Naruto reminded. However, there are some obstacles. For one, my clones will be doing chakra pulses to determine who is too close, whether they're invisible or not. If you're spotted visually or mentally, I am a good detector of a psychic probing and captured, you will fail this mission, along with something else. Any questions? After receiving no response, Naruto smiled and turned around. Very well, you have half an hour to complete this easy assignment. Begin. Connection established. Miss Martian telepathically informed the other 3. What are our options? Aqualad immediately asked. We can make him tell us what they're doing, Superbus suggested, always eager for a challenge. That's too risky. He's proven that he can kick our butts over and over again. Besides, there's the possibility that he doesn't know himself, Robin replied before glancing upward. Miss Martian, fly above the tree line and see if you can spot anything that seems out of place in a giant foresty area. The Martian girl nodded and flew upward as commanded till the 3 on the ground could not see her anymore. I see some smoke in the distance. About north? South? Which is it, north or south? Robin demanded. I don't know. What's the Earth word for this direction? Came the girl's response. Everyone, follow me! I can hear them! Superboy growled as he sped off, leaving the other 2. Superboy, slow down! We cannot all jump at great distances, Aqualad called out. I got it, Miss Martian assured. Using her telepathy, she carried Robin and Aqualad and sped off in Superboy's direction. Robin gave a sigh. Okay, everybody stay whelmed, we can get through this. Aqualad nodded. Agreed. If we can relax and focus as a proper team, we can handle anything that Shadow Fox can throw at us. I've found them. They're dash. Something or someone cut Superboy off, making the team automatically fear the worst. Superboy, status. Are you alright? Aqualad demanded. You've got to be kidding me, came the reply of the clone. The lagging part of the team cleared a thick part of the forest where they found Superboy, and all the Naruto clones. One brief look, and they were subjected to the horrors of their mentor. The mountains grew white with the dense blizzard that blew across them. Only the incredibly brave and foolish would dare to travel up them during such a tempest. Nevertheless, 2 climbers braved the intense cold. Both were deeply clothed in anything that could cover their body. The leader had climbed the mountains several times in her lifetime. She came back from every one of them stronger and tougher than ever before. It became her own personal right of survival, and now she was giving it to someone else. Her companion was also female, but it was a little girl, Her entire frame did not go past the leader's leg, and she was struggling up the climb as expected. The girl's pack did not have as much weight as her guide, but the icy tempest they traveled in made up for that. Only the incredibly brave and foolish would travel up that mountain, and both of them were either. The guide was the teacher, teaching her pupil, her legacy, and that said pupil did not believe in failure. Besides, the reward in the long run would be worth the climb. Somebody tell me what I'm looking at. I think it's what Earth calls the chicken dance. Of all the things that Naruto could surprise them with, it was about a dozen of grown men performing the chicken dance in perfect synchronization with the song. Words could not properly describe what the emotions the team was feeling. Embarrassment? Confusion? Anger even? Who knew? Don't get too close, Robin warned. We still need to find the so-called leader of this rodeo, find anybody that sticks out. How would we know who sticks out? Miss Martian asked in confusion, making Robin groan. Knowing Shadow Fox, it'd be the one doing the worm or something. The worm? So he'd be underground? They floated around the gathering a few feet away, silently and hoping that none of the team somehow gets into Shadow Fox's chakra pulse range. Yet no matter how hard they looked or how careful they were, they couldn't find a single clone doing something out of the ordinary. This is getting annoying, Superboy growled mentally, easily losing his patience. Miss Martian nodded wearily. I have to side with Superboy on this one, plus the music is getting on my nerves. Wait, music! Robin ran back to the dance in excitement. True enough, there was only one Naruto playing the bagpipe like a professional. Guys! I found the leader! He's the one making the music, the one leading on the dance. Aqualad nodded in relief. Good, we have about 10 minutes on the clock. We should get back to Kid Flash and Shadow Fox to pass this test with flying colors. Little did they know, Robin had gotten too close to the clones, causing one of them to stop dancing. He stared at the team, then gave a loud noise akin to that of the crow of a rooster. Not good, run! Instead of following the advice of his friends, Superboy gave a primal roar and rushed the clones. With his super strength, he punched one into a cloud. SB, what are you doing? The goal is not to get captured, Robin mentally yelled out, but Aqualad unleashed his water swords. No, Superboy has a good idea. Distract the clones, giving Miss Martian the opportunity she needs to escape. What? Why me? The green-skinned girl questioned. You are the only one fast enough without Kid Flash. Time is against us, you must go. Without another word except a lingering glance, Miss Martian sped off cloaked. Robin twirled his eskrima sticks and joined the other two in the fight. The clones were no longer their goofy selves as earlier, but rather clones of the Shadow Fox, one of the world's greatest fighters if not the best, making punching and slashing them to inexistence much harder than earlier intentions. As two clones threw Superboy against a tree, Miss Martian searched for the thoughts of Kid Flash. They weren't hard, usually on the train of food, science, and beautiful women. Wally! W.O. Is that an angel I hear? No time! Quick! Clones were doing a chicken dance dash. Chicken what? Robin was right. Wally was fast on his feet, but not with his mouth, and apparently his mind as well. Chicken dance! With the leader playing a bag thingy. Bagpipe? Yeah, that. Tell him, quick! Miss Martian urged before something quickly grabbed her foot and threw her to the earth. Her eyes glowed green and sent the clone spiraling into the treetops where it hit something and exploded into smoke. And game over! Shadow Fox loudly declared. He sliced away Kid Flash's bonds. He stood before Miss Martian, who sat on the ground. Well played, thought there was some problems. I'll discuss it when the others re-dash. At that moment, the other three team members were tossed to the ground on their backs. Now that we're all here, let's discuss your performance, Naruto declared. Superboy, your hastiness and little disregard for your members is very dangerous for this line of work. You may be durable, but your comrades aren't. You need to rein in your temper focus. The clone only growled in anger, proving he didn't really listen. Aqualad, you kept your head in the game really well, but you're too gentle. Your advice was sound enough, but that was all it was, advice. You allowed your comrades do whatever they were comfortable with rather than what needed to be done. However, you made up with that by effectively working with what you had. The Atlantean nodded at the advice. It was something he would have to work on, as well as another reason he may not be cut out for leadership. Wait, you were watching us the whole time? Robin asked in disbelief. Shadow Fox grinned. Yeah, and now we move on to you. As expected, you utilized your analytical mind to find the hidden meaning, the underneath. However, you got sloppy and made assumptions in your hastiness. You'll need to stop doing that in the future. Shadow Fox faced Mgan, who stared shyly in the ground. I'm going to say the obvious. You don't know a whole lot about Earth and our language yet, and that won't be held against you. However, you are impulsive when it comes to helping out. Your eagerness to be useful can and will get you into situations where you may or may not be capable of handling. After talking to her, he faced Kid Flash. What? The boy asked. Naruto sighed. There are so many things wrong with you. I'd be here all day naming them. Hey! I resent that. Despite your problems, you all, minus Kid Flash, worked together to pass my test, and pass you did. Which is good, otherwise I'd have to go to Santa Prisca. Santa what now? Kid Flash asked dumbly. Shadow Fox grinned. I won't say, the details are in the briefing you're gonna get from Batman. The team all widened their eyes and stared back and forth at each other at the implications of what Shadow Fox had said. Naruto laughed. That's right, your first mission, aside from that Twister incident that you all thought was fake. Let's get on the bioship. If you hurry and shower into fresh clothes, Batman may not be in such a bad mood today. Stop right there! Shadow Fox and Batman spent the long Gotham night chasing one man and with a girl in his clutches. But the chase finally came to an end when the lunatic took one wrong turn in the old Gotham maze. Give it up! You can't escape, we are sending you back to Arkham where you belong, Batman declared. Shadow Fox nodded along while fingering a shuriken. A lone light from above shined down on the two heroes and the one bald man. A bald man with many scars on his back. Back to Arkham, away from all the fat little piggies. Never! Insanity was laced in the growl of the patient, showing how little of his humanity had remained throughout the years of medication and a dozen imaginary voices screaming in his fractured mind. There was no human left, only a killer. Only Zash. The killer glanced down at the girl in his arms. She trembled at his touch. Tears was coming out of her eyes, but he didn't focus on that. This girl, this piggy, needed to be gutted right now. I suppose, one more little piggy before my fun is ruined, he mumbled with twisted insanity. No! Don't! Naruto remembered that night as clear as day. He currently was standing in the alley from whence the events unfolded. He was obsessed with going there, like Bruce's relationship with Crime Alley. The girl was barely eligible to learn how to drive, probably just left middle school. Maybe she still had dreams of being some sort of doctor or an actress, but they were dashed with the edge of the knife as well as the lack of supply for a rare blood type. Naruto compromised that day. Whatever unspoken rule there was to being a hero, he deviated from it. He was so mad, his eyes turned crimson. He knew how fond Zash was to cutting his own flesh as a way to remember each and every kill he's made in his life, so Naruto gave Zash a cut worthy for the girl. The man really spilled his guts. Bruce didn't talk about it for a week, even though he knew how important the no killing rule was to him, but Naruto had no qualms about what he did. If he had the power, he'd have killed Zash way earlier. The League had always spoke about not killing so they wouldn't stoop down their level, but Naruto was from that level, and he wasn't the only one. Wonder Woman trained her entire life to be a powerful and deadly warrior. John Stewart and Barry were both law enforcement. Hawkwoman came from a warrior planet. Even Red Tornado was designed by a villain to infiltrate the League and destroy it. They had to understand what Naruto was going through, spending the most of your life, well, what little he remembered, becoming something only to end up shunning that part of you for eternity. It was a struggle, and it was not becoming any easier as the days rolled on. The more he fought as a hero, the more villains he ran into, and as he stared into their black hearts filled with evil intentions, it was hard not indulging the thought that the whole world would benefit their death. The watch on his hand started beeping. It was a reminder that he had an appointment with Dr. Young today, and for the sake of Pam's sanity, he'd better not miss it. Come on in. Sorry it's a little messy, not one for constant cleaning. Dr. Young spoke as Naruto glanced around at the moderate-size office. She was right, it was messy. There were papers on tables, papers on storage bins, papers in cabinets, just papers everywhere. Naruto sat down in a metal chair across a polished wooden desk and its owner, who placed down a file. A window of Gotham's rising sun provided great lighting. You rely on sunlight? Naruto questioned. It's not encouraged to use additional electricity, Young explained. In case we may need it for security, Arkham doesn't get much funding, which is sad since it holds most of the nutcases in the world. Something your fair Warden Sharp hopes to change if he becomes mayor? Naruto asked lightly. Young sighed. I sure hope so. Anyway, we're ready to begin whenever you're ready. Tape recording? Naruto questioned as he stared at the little device in the woman's hands. Just to keep things as official as possible, she explained. There could be more to it, but it would come off as suspicious if Naruto started to ask oddly specific questions, so he just nodded. The psychiatrist opened her small file that revealed several photos, all pertaining to the femme fatale that was Poison Ivy, whether it was her vines, her victims, or herself. Mr. Naruto Uzumaki, I would like you to tell me how you met patient Pamela Isley and what level of friendship you share with her. Naruto placed his elbows on his knees and thought. That day felt like an eternity ago, but strangely he remembered it like it was yesterday. We met it was more like we ran into each other. It was a fresh start for Naruto, a new life away from the League of Shadows to venture into the world. If Roz held plans for him to destroy the world, then he should at least get to know it, understand why it was so terrible. Gotham City was his starting point. It was considered to be one of the worst cities in America, if not the world. There was a League outpost should Naruto ever need anything, and besides, an old friend lived here. She could show him the ropes of the place instead of him spending weeks tripping on his toes. Naruto was wearing baggy pants and a buttoned-up black jacket, as well as carrying a backpack in one hand and his suitcase in another. The loose clothing as well as the suitcase all carried his personal gear and equipment in case he ever went into mercenary work. He was regarded the best assassin in the world. Assassin or not, it could never have prepared him for the rush of Gotham. People practically ran right past him without any regard to the other people they passed. Did they even notice their existence? Constant movement of so many people was bad for somebody of Naruto's caliber. He'd be too busy checking them all to watch where he's. Watch out! The blonde practically face slammed into another person and both fell to the ground. Their performance earned them a quick glance from a few civilians, but they went back to their fast-paced lives. Naruto quickly checked his luggage to find that nothing had fallen out, much to his relief. Then he decided to help the person he knocked over. One look at her had froze any words that planned to leave his mouth. It was a woman. She had a nice face, it was a little dirty, and she was currently readjusting her glasses. The lab coat she wore gave off the idea that she was some type of scientist, but that wasn't the point. The point was that she had red hair. Actual red hair. Naruto didn't know why, but he paid very close attention to the hair. She glanced back at him very briefly, muttered her apologies, and left in a hustle, leaving him to stare as she passed on by. So you met purely by coincidence? Young surmised audibly. Naruto nodded. Yeah. It wasn't a week later that we knocked over each other again, but this time, I wasn't gonna let her go. It was the hair. There was something strange about that hair. Like I held red hair in a high regard, he explained. Dr. Young nodded as she wrote down on a pad, attraction to redheads. Was it strange that she felt a little disappointed at the fact? So this wasn't the last time you met? Obviously not this time. I spilled her tea, he replied. I seized my opportunity to apologize and offer to buy her more. She was such the timid girl back then, made excuses that it was an expensive tea and that she got it from a store across town, but I wasn't listening. Anyway, I took her to the store and we sat down and talked over tea. Found out she was a botanist there, and also that she was underappreciated, but she didn't mind at all. Plants were her passion, she loved them from the bottom of her heart, and she was willing to sacrifice her personal wants to be with them. So her infatuation with plants was there long before her accident, Dr. Young theorized. Her theory proved right with the blonde's nod. I was the first person to see her like this, you know. It was late and I was about to turn in for the night until I heard some knocking on my door. I answered, wondering who would have the balls to keep me away from my sleep, only to see a completely new woman at my doorstep. Imagine my shock. He spoke in a somewhat joking manner. The woman urged him on while she wrote some things down in her notes. Well, despite her obvious changes, she still talked like old Pam, and she needed help, so I helped her. Been doing that ever since. He concluded in a small, proud manner. Dr. Young nodded as she stopped the tape recording. All right, we'll have to end it for now. I have more duties to attend. So am I clear? Naruto asked eagerly as the woman packed her stuff up. Penelope Young could only shrug. I believe you, but the warden may not be as convinced. We'll have to continue this until I feel like you're in the clear zone. Until then, feel free to keep visiting Miss Isley as much as you can. I get a feeling that you're the reason she's more cooperative than our other patients here. Naruto had plans of spending the rest of his afternoon just relaxing the night away, but when he received the full league alert, Shadow Fox took control of the rest of his evening. Am I really at the right place? Naruto questioned as he studied the given coordinates. He was stranded in the middle of a train yard with no signs of human life for miles, much less a struggle. Ack! Naruto looked up to see the descending form of Giovanni Zatara, recognized magic user of the League, falling to the earth. I gotcha! Naruto yelled as he leapt onto a train and caught the sorcerer out of the air. He appeared not mortally wounded, but very bruised as well as weary. What's going on? Naruto asked quickly, in case the man decided to lose consciousness. Robot! Zatara gasped. The blonde looked up to a massive man with orange skin land a solid blow on Superman, who grunted as he was launched several feet away. This creature wore no shirt to hide its literally chiseled abs, but rather had pants that were a tad shadier than normal green. Its face was void of any emotions and its eyes were black and red. It also had short hair that was also orange as well as pointy ears. Despite its distracting appearance, Shadow Fox knew this villain quite well. It was a nuisance to the League, especially to Naruto, for some strange reason, for its ability to copy the abilities of anybody it glances. It was a dangerous robot, unique to the world like its insane creator who was dead, but somehow it was rebuilt. The amazing Amazo had been brought back to life. Somebody call the North Pole because one of Santa's little helpers is naughty this year. Shadow Fox spoke as he pulled out his sword. Punches would not be needed to hold back for the fight he was about to be in. I already said that. The voice of Flash called out as he sped past the blonde. Always stealing my jokes! Naruto yelled out. Green Lantern, John Stewart, flew above the robot and constructed a massive hammer. He held it upward before swinging it down on Amazo with a mighty yell. Access, Martian Manhunter! Amazo spoke in a computerized voice before phasing out of the physical plane, allowing the massive green hammer to pass harmlessly through Amazo's body. The robot phased back and struck the lantern into a train car before phasing out again to dodge the combined attacks of the Hawks, Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Access, Captain Atom! Both of the Thanagarians cried out as the cosmic rays struck them to the earth. Amazo copied Martian Manhunter again so that Captain Marvel could run straight into Wonder Woman. Alright, you big elf, eat some of this! Green Arrow yelled while firing 3 explosive arrows. Amazo didn't even move as the projectiles found their mark and exploded on its body, and when the dust settled, the android was as intact as the moment the arrows ever left Ollie's quiver. I think you annoyed it, Black Canary stated once she caught up with the two. How would you know? Green Arrow demanded defensively. You're you. You annoy everyone, came the reply of the female blonde. The robot glanced downward at the grounded heroes as its red eyes started to glow a more violent crimson. Access, Superman! Immediately, red laser beams shot out of the robot and to the heroes. Arg! Dinah! Green Arrow yelled out in concern. She narrowly missed a fatal shot of laser beams and opted getting grazed in her left arm, but the heat beam onslaught wasn't going to stop with that. Shadow Fox ducked a beam meant for his head and scooped Canary up before running out of the open field. Naruto hissed as the beam struck him in the back. I can move myself, Black Canary insisted once they got to the other side of a rail car. You got hit. Shadow Fox hastily defended himself while offering her a bandage. So did you. But I heal fast. Superman returned to the fight and rushed Amazo from behind, slamming the robot down to the ground. Amazo reacted to throwing the Man of Steel into a train and promptly blowing the train up with heat vision. We really need a plan, Shadow Fox exclaimed once he finally found Batman attending the unconscious Martian Manhunter. He multitasked that along with theorizing a plan to deal with Amazo while the others attempted to deal with the Machine Bee brute force. Hand-to-hand combat isn't effective, not when he could phase through an attack or dodge it with the Flash's speed, Batman replied to his partner as Hawkman collided with the side of a railcar followed by Hawkgirl, making them both go through the car. Superman had returned with a whole train of his own. He threw it down on the robot who didn't even dodge it. The train screamed with bending metal and broken wood as it toppled to the ground. It was quiet for a mere moment when two dots appeared on the side of the train. Amazo's heat vision shot all the way through the train and struck the Kryptonian, knocking him out of the sky. Shadow Fox cringed as his burning back sizzled, a sign that the healing process had begun. As we know well enough, pure muscle strength isn't gonna cut it, and speed probably is just as effective. At that moment, Flash promptly was skipped onto the ground right beside the two. Shadow Fox continued. Energy not helpful, but what about Magic Dash? His question was immediately answered in the form of Captain Marvel actually getting his head stuck into the dirt. I've got an EMP arrow. Green Arrow held up his arrow that was dark blue at the tip, trying to be helpful. Batman shook his head. His skin is too tough and he could phase right through you. Shadow Fox narrowed his eyes as a plan began to formulate in his mind. I've got an idea! He exclaimed while snatching the arrow. Amazo pounded Wonder Woman into the ground, then looked up to see a mob of Shadow Foxes rushing him. Living energy began to build in its hands as it spoke again in its mechanical voice. Access, Captain Atom! A massive burst of yellow energy shot the clones away with such a force that they all puffed into nothingness. The robot identified the original Fox-themed hero and made a step to move towards him, until the ground underneath it cracked. Amazo looked down only to see a fist connect to its chin, the Shadow Fox clone dispelled after its victorious strike against the machine, only for another clone to pop up above the robot while it was off the ground. Synthetic red eyes stare upward at the hero who held an arrow in one hand and a violently rotating blue sphere in the other. Hasta la vista, baby! Rasengan! Naruto yelled out as he drove the sphere of energy deep into Amazo's stomach. Its rotation began to grind away Amazo's tough exterior. Naruto knew what Rasengan meant, but he didn't know how he learned the move or why he even bothered to say it out loud. It was one of those things that stuck to him in the very beginning, even before the League of Shadows. Amazo's yellow skin tore away to reveal black and blue mechanical parts. Unhesitating, Naruto drove the arrow into the android's center. He backed away as the robot convulsed and sparks cackled all over it until the Amazo robot was finally still, hopefully forever. Quickly, dismantle it! Batman ordered as he rushed the robot. Bats, that thing is fried! Flash pointed out as he limped to the robot. He was sporting a broken leg, but it was nothing a few hours of rest and a large, hearty meal couldn't fix. Take no chances, the Bat replied as he removed the head, the first thing that had to go. Shadow Fox sighed in embarrassment at his partner's paranoid notions. I really hope that Robin doesn't take after you when he grows up. Eventually, a pile of body parts were all that remained of the League's victory. Guess that deals with this problem, Superman declared while rubbing his arm in a soothing manner. He may be the strongest man on Earth, but that didn't mean he was exempt from pain. Not at all, we still have to figure out who made it, and why. Batman reminded as he scoured the Amazo's memory chip for anything of use. As he expected, he found nothing. Well, we've got a whole team of scientists waiting to take a good long look at it in Star Labs, Flash reminded. Green Lantern was gracious enough to provide the speedster a temporary cast construct for his leg. Wonder Woman nodded at the advice. We should take it to the hall first, Perform a thorough examination of anything suspicious inside the robot before taking it into Star Labs. Agreed. I'll arrange convoys to take Amazo piece by piece, lowering the chances of someone seeking to reclaim it. Perhaps I'll add a few fake convoys to draw them off, Batman added. You really think somebody's gonna come back for this hunk of metal? Green Lantern questioned the world's greatest detective, who stared back at the man. When in doubt, there is no doubt, came the stoic reply. Naruto turned around to see Black Canary. Her arm was attended, but her jacket was a little torn at the side. Do you need to see any medical attention? You got hit in the back, she asked. Naruto grinned. Nah, I'm already all healed. See? He turned around and pointed at the hole in his uniform, burned away by Amazo's heat vision, to show tan skin that was a little red, but it was fine. The heroine nodded to her fellow blonde. By the way, I had plans of meeting the team today and giving them a short lesson. Do you want to come with me? You sure you still want to do that? Your arm looks like it really hurts, Naruto pointed out. He could see the lingering redness her wound had left. It won't bother me. I've fought under worse circumstances, she assured before throwing a smirk. Besides, it may give them a chance against me. Naruto chuckled. Fine by me then. They're a little rough around the edges, but I'm sure you'll fall in love with Mgan. She'll be the sweetest thing you've ever met. In Gotham. A lone man opened the wooden door to a room darkened by the shadows and dimly lit by blood-red candles. The room was medium-sized, but it felt small compared to the number of men inside it, all chanting in some archaic language. These men were anonymous under their cloaks of crimson red, but they circled the fresh carcass of a young girl, about the age of a teenager, with her chest ripped open wide. You called for me? The man asked in a deep voice. It was old and gravely, but it still held the sharpness of a sword to it. We require another totem, in the name of Cain, the leader priest screeched out. The lone man scoffed as he pulled out a cigar. Whatever you need. He left that room and all the lunatics inside to do their dirty business. The man didn't like working with lunatics. They were obsessed with the most obscene things and were just as unpredictable as the beings they worshipped, but these guys paid good and they were necessary. They were lunatics for certain, but they were also lunatics with connections that a man of his stature would be a fool to turn away from. Once he had those connections, he would see to it that these cultists would vanish from the earth as punishment for wasting his time. Like his profession, their deaths weren't personal, maybe a little, strictly business. Time was a valuable thing to an assassin, and they had taken 20 years of his time. That was an offense to his pride. After 20 years of working for the worst, he was finally getting noticed by the higher-ups, the ones who run Gotham now. Once he's gotten all cozy with them, he'll finally be on track to his main goal. Being the undisputed greatest assassin in the world, and no retired turncoat was gonna be able to stop him. Chapter end. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. Also share this story with your friends, and now it's time for me to go, bye.